Sandy Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization to order. Item number 2, roll call.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. For the record, this meeting was posted to our website and the Secretary of State's website on Friday. Roll call. Hidalgo County,
Present.
City of Bronzeville,
Present.
Cameron County,
Present.
City of McAllen,
Here.
City of Edinburgh,
Present.
City of Mission,
Present.
City of Harlingen,
Here.
City of FAR,
Present.
Starr County,
Present.
City of San Benito,
Present.
Cameron County RMA,
Present.
Hidalgo County RMA,
Here.
Valley Metro,
Present.
TxDOT, quorum. Thank you.
Okay, item number 3, public comments. Do we have anybody that signed up for public comments?
No.
Nobody is, okay, so nobody signed up for public comments. We'll move on to item number 4, action and discussion items. Item A, approval of the minutes for January 31st, 2024. Are there any changes, comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion. I'll second that.
Okay, then we have the RMA, the Hidalgo County RMA and Starr County with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item B, consideration and action to approve resolution 2024-03 concurring with the TxDOT initiative to prevent federal fund lapse.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Eva.
Thank you. Just to get us started, again, this is a concurrence request for a TxDOT initiative, and I really want to walk you all through what we're asking of you today. There's a regional situation, and for the RGV, only 17% of our construction projects with Category 7 are scheduled for fiscal year 24. And so we have this allocation remaining of $122.59 million, and this includes federal and state funds, and the $25.14 million that are scheduled are reflective of construction projects only. So I did want to highlight that. But at the end of the day, what we need to do is to advance projects into the TIP and get projects ready to let. And just to understand the 17% a little bit better, the HGAC, the Houston area, has 15.16% scheduled for fiscal year 24, while Lubbock MPO has 201.7% scheduled for 2024. And so the statewide average is about 44.9% of the MPOs with projects that are scheduled for fiscal year 24, specifically construction projects. So moving on, this chart I included because I really wanted to show that there's the amount that is part of the apportionment, and then this other half, it looks like more than half or typically half, is the carryover from prior fiscal years. So year after year, there's more carryover. It's up to 3 years of carryover. And so the state has about $6.6 billion or 1.16 years of apportionment. And so what they currently do to ensure the maximum obligation of federal funds is that they have a funding swap. They average, they usually, what they do is for fiscal year 24, for example, Category 7 funds, they're swapped to whatever ready-to-let Category 2 projects are going to construction, and that helps to maximize the obligation. So then Cat 2 later reimburses Cat 7. So for example, projects that are in fiscal year 26 will end up using STP Flex funds and are reimbursed what went to the Category 2 projects. And so the proposed change, because the current system is project selection, what the proposed change is to just swap all of the STPMM funds with STP Flex. And so what this will help do is maximize redistribution and obligation authority. But when I kind of walk you through it, another way to say this is that if you pay for lunch with cash or you pay for lunch with your debit card, you still have the money to pay for lunch. And ultimately what using your debit card does is it helps you to better track, report, and look at the funding that you are spending. And so by concurring with this funding swap, we're gonna help the state ensure obligation of federal funds, and it does not at any way affect the amount that the MPO currently gets. So again, this isn't a conversation about the Chapter 16 rules. There's no change in the total amount allocated to the MPOs. There's no difference in eligibility between the federal STP Flex and the STP MM. And there's no TIP or STIP amendments that need approval by FHWA. It's not a new concept. It's perfectly allowable. It does take collaboration with TxDOT and the MPOs, and the ultimate goal is to prevent a national concern. So by concurring with this STP Flex initiative, we'll reduce the risk of federal funds from lapsing. And project funding amounts do not change. Only the federal portion is being swapped, so the state and local match is not impacted. I kind of walked through that pretty quick. Are there any questions about the concurrence request?
I know that Pete needs to get a microphone, so
There we go.
let him get it. I know that you guys went through the technical board with all of the details with respect to that, and I appreciate that they feel a level of comfort. I guess the question that I have for you is, I know that there have been public comments in this forum before about not obligating those Category 7 monies and getting them to projects in the ground. Does this help alleviate some of that by spending the dollars that are available? Because when you say that future monies don't affect this, I would think that if we're spending it the way you've told us that we need to spend it so that we can get more, I would say that it does impact to some extent our ability to get more funds by justifying that we've used it. Are you shooting me with something?
I mean, when?
Back one more, right there.
Okay.
So, to answer your question, this does not affect the various funding. And I think that analogy, cash versus debit card, is a very good analogy, and thank you for putting that. When I first heard of this, it's one of those things. It's not in layman's terms. But after discussing with staff, at the end of the day, there is no risk here as far as for the funding that we have available to our area. The risk is federal dollars being lost because we have an obligation requirement. We are the last MPO that has not yet approved this and concurred with this request by TxDOT. But there is no risk of losing money. By doing this, it will actually help us because those federal funds would be obligated and we will be utilizing. Two points that I needed to clarify. Category 7, for the audience, for the public and the policy board, those are federal funds for off-system roadway, off the state system. Category 2 are federal funds for on the state system, right? And so what we're proposing to do is basically swap the funds now, go through this process, and in time pay back with Category 2 funds, basically matching dollar for dollar. There's no additional funds. One thing that is very concerning to me is that second bullet there, allocation remaining 147.7 million, 25.1 million scheduled projects, a delta of $122.6 million, right? We got to let our projects, folks. That's the bottom line. We've been preaching this since 2019 when we merged. We talked about shovel-ready projects going to the forefront, projects that have been stagnant, maybe taking a back seat. This is a major decision when it comes to letting projects in our area. What we're trying to do here is get y'all's concurrence, the policy board concurrence, to go ahead with the swap, buy us a little time so that we can deliver projects in a timely manner.
And to back him up, I agree. The MPO is still responsible for selecting their projects and the fiscal year in which they're scheduled, and we are ultimately responsible for obligating the Category 7 off-system federal funds. And so our proposal right now is to work through the Project Readiness Subcommittee. We do have a scheduled workshop for immediately after the next TAC meeting, and staff has been looking at the projects from fiscal year 24 through fiscal year 28. Now this swap is really for fiscal year 24. That's the current focus. But the future years, you're right, we really need to work on reducing the carryover year by year and obligating our full federal obligation or allocation. Sorry.
Right, so we know, I mean, unfortunately, these projects just take a long time to develop. They take a long time to get from concept to construction, and that's reality. So in the short term, this is a much better way of utilizing these funds, especially if we have such a big change or delta that you're referring to. So I appreciate that, but I would hope that these meetings that we're having on a quarterly basis really are, those project updates are really highlighting or showcasing the ones that are moving or advancing their projects to construction, because I think there's been some conversation and consideration about funding those to get them into the ground.
Yes, to answer your, I agree with you completely, number one. Number two, I think we're gonna try to change the project readiness format a little bit, and instead of asking for project updates, what the MPO is hoping to do maybe is say, this is our understanding of your current project readiness, and what projects can we identify to advance, maybe into the tip years, so that we can really focus on the next 4 fiscal years and bring projects that are advancing into the fiscal year, ultimately for the federal funding obligation, if that makes sense.
And this is where I would tell that you've got to help us a little bit, and with us in collaboration with TxDOT is, tell us exactly what you need to get those AFAs in place so that we can get these things moving and moving forward. Sometimes we walk into those meetings, or I'm not gonna say we walk, but we don't know something's missing. And if we had a checklist so that we can make sure that we know exactly what we need to take to the table to make sure that we advance these things.
Definitely. That's what I think we're hoping to change, is that instead of asking the local governments to give us their updates, we're gonna say, this is our understanding of your status and the next steps needed. And then working with TxDOT FAR District very closely so that that communication is for both of us, that we're not missing anything TxDOT has, TxDOT is not missing anything we have, and what we're doing with the local governments is having them focus on the priorities needed to obligate those funds and deliver projects, really.
You have anything else, Pete?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Well, it might be another question.
Yeah, I have a couple questions, but go ahead.
Go ahead.
Commissioner.
Go ahead,
go
Ramiro.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I just wanted to understand to make sure I'm clear. So are we de-obligating any funds to any of the current projects? That's question one. It's in here, but I just want to clarify.
No.
The answer is no. And then what is the time frame of this swap? In other words, I mean, I'm thinking of it like a city budget, right? We have our fiscal year, we're saying, all right, this project's not gonna finish, we're gonna do carryover, for example, to this year. How is the time frame on this in terms of a swap?
So once it's approved by the policy board, basically they'll have a blessing from, and it'll be almost instantaneously. The next day, tomorrow, or Monday, it'll be taken care of.
Well, I guess, no, my question is, when do those funds come back to be available for whatever project? This is for 24, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if, I mean, there's a project that it's almost there, like the commissioner's saying. I mean, there's sometimes, a point where you're almost there, but you're gonna get there. So is there gonna be anything in place for that particular project to not lose out on that particular funding? Because I do agree, and I appreciate, NOP, you've always told us, hey, we got the whole point here is to expedite things, but at the same time, there's some things that are limited as far as our authority, whether it's environmental, whether it's different entities involved in a project, and that's the only reason I ask what the time frame of it is, so make sure we don't miss out on any funding.
Can I expand on that just a little bit? And Pete, maybe this will help all of us understand. Is the process for replenishing the money an annual cycle, or is it just as instantaneous as you taking the money into category 2?
The latter. Basically, one thing that I do want to point out, 122.6 million carries over. So if we were to utilize and invest that money and put those projects out, at that point, we would have met our obligation and we start pushing the money back, the same color of money, if you will, to the category 7. On a side note, I guess it was about 2 months ago, perhaps, at the policy board meeting, we talked about category 2 funding also not being utilized, and most of those projects are our responsibility at TxDOT, that funding would be switched over to category 11, which is safety funding. That is even a bigger risk. My point in saying all this is we got about $123 million basically that are rolling over. Let's utilize that money, let's invest that money, and then we're gonna get reimbursed instantaneously. It'll switch right back once we get to that point.
I think the MPO does plan to come back to talk more about that carryover and the potential transfer of funds to Category 11 ultimately at a later time. So, well, next month probably.
Will this delay in any way, shape, or form any Category 7 projects? I think that's probably your concern.
That was a big concern.
No,
Okay, it will not.
it will not.
Okay, what percentage in this swap or the first year do you plan to be able to get to going from 17% to what?
That's a great question. So to answer that question, right now for fiscal year '24, we have the 25.14 million. Already, the MPO staff, along with the TxDOT District, has looked at a list of potential projects. I actually have that list with me that may be ready to advance. And out of, I think we looked at 6 projects, and 2 were really ready to advance for fiscal year '24. Now, again, fiscal year '24, in order to obligate the funding into this fiscal year, requires an FPA request by March or April. And so in order to ensure the obligation for fiscal year '24, those projects need to be very, very close to ready to let. And I think the other 2 projects we're considering and need to work closer with our local governments will help us improve that percentage from 17. But this is only fiscal year '24. So the project readiness workshop is where we're going to start discussing the strategy for picking up that percentage in fiscal year '25, fiscal year '26, '27, and '28 to reduce the carryover.
My question is, for this next fiscal year, what percentage do you intend to get to?
It
Is there
hasn't.
a goal? Do you have a goal that you want to get to, like 30%?
The state average is 44,
Right.
and I'd love to get to the state average. We're under the state average right now, so I think that's our first 25 goal. But Lubbock MPO is at 200%. It would be phenomenal if we could have so many projects ready to obligate federal funds, because then we could go after other federal funding and
Amen.
and bring that's the real long-term goal. And if we could do that in 4 years, that'd be a real success for the region.
So where are you, Pete, in regards to Category 2 funds as a percentage of construction projects scheduled?
I do not have the exact percentage number right now, but I can tell you, Commissioner, that we have close to $200 million that are going to be led in fiscal years '24, '25, and '26. And so we're going to be pushing very, very hard to utilize the funding that's made available to us. At the end of the day, this process will allow us the flexibility at this MPO to maximize the dollars in our region. It's about us getting the projects to the finish line and delivering.
Yeah, I understand that, but I want to make sure that you're not having the same issues with Category 2 funds as we are having with Category 7 funds.
Yeah,
At your level.
Our challenges in the FAR district have been the acquisition of right-of-way and utility
And
adjustments.
that's not any different than your challenges, our challenges, and everybody else's challenges. So what's the percentage?
I do not have that answer. I can get that information to you.
It's a curiosity.
Yeah, and Chairman, real quick, finally, just to wrap my arms around this. So this 122 million is going into a state pot, or how? Just want to understand it.
Category 2.
Right,
Local.
but.
It's in our allocation.
Local.
Okay,
Yeah,
but it's not going to the state, because we're trying to maximize federal dollars, correct?
That's correct.
So it'll be as a region. So
Yes.
Got
Stays
it.
here.
Got it, okay.
I hope you're both here next month because we'll be diving into that topic deeper.
Could you share that list, though, of the projects you're thinking are very close to advancing? It doesn't necessarily have to be right now, but can you send us that
Yes, sir.
information?
Just put draft on it or something if you have to, just.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Happy to. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go back. Pete, your motion is still on the
Yes.
table? Okay.
Second.
Have a second by Cameron County. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Eva.
Thank you, Eva.
Item C, consideration and action to approve Resolution 2024-07, Programming 5310 Program Funds. Eva.
Thank you. I'll try to go through this really quickly. I think I've presented on the 5310 program. These are funds from the Federal Transit Administration that are intended to improve mobility for seniors and individuals with disabilities. And so we have about 1.6 million, a little under, from fiscal year 22 and 23. These funds go directly to the LRGVDC, who's the direct recipient for FTA, and the LRGVDC has a program management plan, what we call a PMP, And this program management plan designates the RGVMPO to do the project selection with a scoring criteria. And so I do share in your packet the FTA requirements and the scoring criteria. We had a schedule of activities for this program, call for projects, and we received 4 applications, and they're all included in your packet. Metro McAllen submitted a request for a mobility management plan. They also submitted a request for a paratransit ADA accessible vehicle purchase. And a part 2 to that request for additional vehicles. And you can see here on this slide that I crossed out a piece of this because in communication since the TAC meeting, they thought maybe moving from 5 cutaway vehicles to 10 electric and non-electric paratransit vehicles. The request for funding stays the same, the intent stays the same, so staff determined that it would not impact the score or the evaluation that occurred. I also included the old budget in your packet along with the new proposed budget. And again, Valley Metro was another applicant, and they requested a total of 1.5 million, a little bit more. But after scoring and evaluating the applications, Metro McAllen's 3 applications scored a little bit higher than Valley Metro's. But after communication with them, they agreed to let go of one of their applications, and that would help get Valley Metro about $400,000 in funding. And so Metro McAllen would have 2 projects awarded in this recommendation, and Valley Metro would have 1 project awarded in this application.
It's very kind of McAllen Metro, right, Tom? Okay, anything else?
No, that's it. We do have a resolution for your consideration today in order to make this official and share with our state and federal partners.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Motion by Edinburgh, second by TxDOT. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ella. Item D, discussion and action on fiscal year 24-25 Unified Planning Work Program Amendment Number 2.
Yes.
Fernando?
Good afternoon. Today I'm here to present the UPWP for 24-25. This would be the amendment number 2. Amendment number 2, there is no additional fundings, no money was being moved around, only verbiage is being added to our UPWP. The 2 things that we are looking to do with this amendment is to include, to get attorney and legal services. At the moment, we have some contracts that need some legal review, but we have no description in our UPWP to allow us to look for those services. So it's a verbiage that I got to add into it in order to get those services. And another one is for the hiring firm services to seek for the new director.
Gotcha.
So like I said, like I mentioned before, there is no money being changed, no nothing, just verbiage being added so that we can use our planning dollars to reach out and get those services for us.
Okay. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Motion by Cameron County to approve. Second by San Benito. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank
Thank you very much, Fernando. Item E, consideration and action to approve resolution 2024-06, 2023 thoroughfare plan amendments.
Hi, yes, good afternoon. Alma Provencio, GIS Specialist. So if you may recall, our thoroughfare amendment window started in August of 2023, where people were able to submit the amendments for that year. The window closed in December 21st of 2023, and a total of 15 amendments were submitted. In your packet is a comprehensive list of all those amendments. And if there are any additional amendments after this process, the cycle starts again in August of 2024. So this is an action item, and there is a resolution that staff is requesting approval for. And once this resolution is approved, we will make presentations to the 3 commissioners' courts. After those presentations, UMAP will be updated no later than April of 2024 with those amendments.
Okay, any questions?
Just a question. So after this approval, does it go back to the cities or is this final?
No, this is final. Once the resolution is signed, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Motion by Edinburgh. Second by Hidalgo County RMA. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. Item F, consideration and action to approve Resolution 2024-04 regarding federal functional classification of East Loop CSJ 0921-06-315 and surrounding facilities. Luis?
Yes, good afternoon, policy board members. The East Loop project has been in the works for some time. We've had a lot of coordination between ourselves, the FAR district and TPMP and FHWA, and also with the RMA as well, with Cameron County RMA. So we've had a lot of coordination. And with that said, there was also a recommendation done to look at the surrounding area of East Loop, which is something that we did do. We made some modifications to the existing federal functional classification network in order to accommodate East Loop. So East Loop is being requested to be a minor arterial, and the limits of that project are from I-69 all the way to the new Southport connector. So with that said, all of the changes that are included, we have a resolution. So we can go on to the next page, so I could just look at on the presentation. Let's go on to the next map. Okay, so actually that's Russell Road. Let's go on to the next one. I think we skipped East Loop. We could go back. Back.
Page 80.
Yeah, page 80. Right, thank you. There we go. Okay, so that's the map. So the one that you're looking at as East Loop is the one that starts way over here at the far right. So that's Southport Connector. And then as you're working your way down all the way to I-69, that's where the project terminates. Some locations that keep in mind, and this is the surrounding area. So these are all the amendments that are being done as part of the resolution as well in order to support that minor collector that's gonna go, the minor arterial, sorry, that's gonna go from Southport all the way to I-69. If we go on to the next map, so this one identifies locations where there's actually overlaps. So you have overlaps on one on the far right over there. So we just wanted to identify where the Southport connector is actually going to be replacing. And then if you look at number 2 as well, there's an overlap over here too, where it's actually going to be brought down to a major collector. So that's where those amendments are. So from a minor arterial down to major collector. Number 4 is a little bit different, which is down here at the bottom, the south part. That one is actually going to be abandoned. So that's a portion that once East Loop is built, that little curvy part at the bottom is going to be actually abandoned and done away with. So that's no longer going to exist. And number 3 is also an overlap that's also going to be changed to a major collector as well. So that just explains all the amendments that we do have moving forward for East Loop. It was a pretty complex, complicated, project, but we got it. And, we have the blessing from TPMP and FAR District to move forward with FHWA with the official submittal after we get this resolution approved today.
In regular people terms, what's the difference between a minor arterial and a major collector?
Okay, a minor arterial is more of an expressway type facility, higher speeds. Major collector is meant to collect all the traffic from your neighborhoods and local streets. So it's a hierarchy of roadways is pretty much what it is. You start off with your local roads, collectors, arterials, expressways, interstates. Okay. Yes, sir. So this is an action item asking for approval for approving East Loop.
It's important to point out that at the TAC level, we did look and we requested that the MPO analyze all of the existing conditions.
Yes, sir.
And when we downgrade the roadway, that we're not setting ourselves up for failure. In other words, we downgraded and now it's at a class F and it's failing and it needs to be standardized or brought up to speed or
Good point.
Rebuilt and reconstructed because it's no longer meeting the criteria. It's failing with traffic levels, et cetera, but they looked into all of that
Yes.
supposedly, and that's what
Yes,
the
sir.
recommendation is coming forth with.
Yes, the existing traffic counts were looked at also in the projections as well. And with the modifications that we're making to the surrounding network, we should be fine in order to maintain and upkeep the surrounding network as well. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Cameron County, second by Cameron County RMA. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Does that move us to G? Yeah, I flipped the page and didn't scratch it, sorry about that. Got it. Consideration and action to approve Resolution 2024-05 regarding the federal functional classification of Russell Road.
Okay, and this one, it's also expanding on our coordination with federal highways and our local fire district and TPMP as well. This one is a little bit different because this one is not necessarily a new project that's going to be built. This is an existing facility. So actually, this is to follow up with the previous functional classification request that has already been approved, which was Russell Road from Ruth to Ware Road. So it was a 1 mile stretch. So therefore, which is, if you're looking at the map, it's that yellow area in the middle. So that, where you see the dashed yellow line, so off to the left, that's already been approved. But Federal Highways mentioned that you approved that little 1 mile stretch, why not take it further out? So that's what we're doing. We're taking it all the way from Ruth Road all the way to Sugar Road, which will put the rest of the facility eligible for federal fundings in the future for any project development. So that's gonna be a minor urban collector. And that's the lowest classification that's eligible for federal funding. Mind you, any functional classification that's assigned to any roadway, they're eligible for any capacity of building any size roadway. That doesn't limit the facility in any way. So this is also up for approval for moving forward to submittal for Federal Highway Administration for approval of applying the functional classification to the facility. Yes, sir.
I have a
Yes,
question,
Mayor.
Chairman. So the area east of Sugar, what is that?
That is a major
classified?
collector.
Okay.
Yeah, so that has a higher traffic count.
Okay.
So therefore, that's why that one's being given the higher classification. Yes.
So they'll be in line together.
Right,
Got
so
it.
we're
Got it.
able to, that's a good point to make too, because we're not able to jump, for example, from a collector all the way to an arterial. There has to be an in-between, so it's a hierarchy of traffic, you know, so that way the system moves freely and works adequately to move traffic. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
For appropriate identification, Ruth Road to the south is 10th Street or 23rd Street?
Ruth Road?
29th?
29.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so it is 29th.
So move
All
to
right.
approve.
A motion by City of Edinburgh. Second by the City of FAR. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Item H, discussion and possible action on transportation alternative set aside, TASA, also known as Category 9 projects. Ms. Eva.
All right, last item for me. This is the Q1 of 2024 update on these projects, and I'll be coming back to you quarterly for transparency. For anyone who might be new or just needs a little refresher or a recap, the first two slides I include in your packet are the overview of the federal funding process. And the reason why I bring this up is because I wanted to start a new way of communicating these grouped projects. And the oldest projects are the ones that are inherited for us as a regional MPO, but they successfully obligated their awards and are in the reimbursement phase. The next group are the ones that have already been awarded and programmed. They should be working to obligate their projects, and that we're in the obligation phase is what I call it. And then the newest one were just programmed in the fall of last year, October, November. And so they should be working on their advanced funding agreement. So I really kind of I wanted to break down in what phase they should be in to better communicate, project development and delivery. And so with the reimbursement phase, our oldest group of projects, we do have Hidalgo County Active Transportation Plan successfully submitting their request for reimbursements. These are required on a monthly basis. So the projects that already received their concurrence to award a contract should be beginning to submit their monthly request for reimbursement to TxDOT. This helps us ensure that the money, the federal funding isn't just programmed, it's not just obligated, but it actually comes home to the communities. And so the reimbursement phase is very, very important. We have about $4 million of projects in the reimbursement phase. And so for the obligation phase, I did want to report, most of them are working on the 30% environmental and design phase. We have the 3 inactive projects. They're actually all planning projects. And since the TAC meeting, I didn't update these slides, but 2 projects are now active. and one is still inactive. And so the two active projects now are ELSA getting connected. We have a meeting tomorrow morning to hopefully finalize their procurement plan. And then the Arroyo, Colorado Phase 3 study also submitted their final, I think their final revision of their procurement plan to proceed with their RFP process. The city of Hidalgo, however, I did communicate on a phone call, but we haven't had project meetings. We don't have documents. And so this is one project that is still currently inactive. But up to you all, if you want me to come back to you in March specifically on this project, or we can continue until the next quarter to see where they're at. But all this is kind of the deadline that we're working for to help TxDOT FAR District is if we do make funding or project changes, of course they require AFA amendments for projects in this phase, and that takes time. So we don't want to make changes too late that the AFA amendments might impact the successful obligation of the funds. So again, most of these projects are on track. We'd love to see some obligated in fiscal year 24. Doesn't look like it's gonna happen, but all of them need to obligate in fiscal year 25 before those funds expire. So the last newest phase is the program phase. These are $9 million worth of projects. I think there's something like 10 projects, and TxDOT FAR District has already been initiating the project information forms and the SPA documents that are needed to draft the AFAs. So I don't have any red flags on these, but we're gonna continue to give you quarterly updates and make sure that all projects have successfully executed AFAs by October of this year. Any questions? It's a possible action, so no action is required. I just wanted to be communicating with our
But
decision
the
makers.
action would be what?
If you did want to reprogram any funds,
Okay.
specifically, I think for the projects in the obligation phase.
But at this point, your recommendation is that that's not necessary?
Either I can come back to you in March or come back to you in a quarter, but for the AFA amendment, we may want to make a decision by March.
Why don't you give us an update in March then as to what, if any action needs to be taken?
Understood. Will do. I appreciate that guidance. Thank you.
Chairman, I do have a comment. There's been a couple of projects that have let, but not awarded, and local governments are needing to relet those as soon as possible. That is our request. Price escalation is one of the challenges that we're all facing. So we're requesting that local governments get in there and relet these projects as soon as possible.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we're good? All right, item 5, presentations and reports. A, presentation and discussion regarding greenhouse gas emissions deadline. Clarissa?
Hi, good afternoon, policy board members. This is an informational item regarding a newly established performance measure related to greenhouse gas emissions on the national highway system. So in December of 2023, FHWA passed a final rule that became effective on January 8th. The amendment to the federal code establishes a method for the measurement and periodic reporting of tailpipe greenhouse gas emissions that are a direct result from transportation on the highway. There's a hyperlink on this slide to the Code of Federal Regulations that explains this amendment. So here are some of the highlights of what's changed. The state DOTs are to establish declining 2- and 4-year statewide targets of CO2 emissions by March 17th, and biennial reporting begins in 2026. For MPOs, we have to establish declining 4-year targets in our MAB, and the deadline is 180 days after the state adopts its target. And so this means that we will be returning with an action item sometime before August seeking the adoption of a new target similar to how safety targets are adopted or bridge conditions. So this new performance measure is also supposed to be mentioned in our MPO planning documents like the TIP and the MTP by January of 2026. So, but the good news is that consultants that are drafting our MTP are already aware of this, and we plan to have this included with in our new 2050 MTP that's going to be produced by the end of this year. So that's met. And so here's some brief insight into the method of calculating that target, just so that we all have an understanding of the number that's going to be adopted. And so the greenhouse gas measure, or what they're calling GHG measure, quantifies CO2 emissions in millimetric tons by multiplying fuel consumption by a CO2 emission factor, and the proportion of vehicle miles traveled on the national highway system in our MAB. And the data sources for these numbers are provided by FHWA, and the data sources are, it's called the Fuels and FASH Finance Analysis System, and it's also numbers from the Highway Performance Monitoring System. Target setting will use the data from 2022 as a baseline year, and this is the timeline for setting the targets. So first, the state establishes the target in this year of 24, and then 180 days, the MPO adopts ours. And then in 26, the state establishes a new baseline year, the baseline year of 2026, and then we set a target within 6 months after that. And then in 4 years onward, the cycle repeats. Lastly, it's important to note that the MPOs have the option to adopt the state targets or establish a unique quantifiable target, so long as it's declining from the baseline year. And FHWA provides significant progress determination report every 4 years, and there are no penalties to federal funding for failing to achieve these GHG targets. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead.
How do you hit a target like this in an area that's growing as fast as ours? Can we put in a growth factor for this? Like a growth factor of what we're accelerating at? Because if we go from 2022, we might have another 50,000 people in 4 years.
Commissioner, would you mind sharing the mic with Fred?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so.
Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay.
So I think so the question is, how are we going to incorporate the growth factor? Because, you know, it's like every 4 years we set a new baseline. So the baseline by the time we get to 26 is from 4 years ago. So vehicle miles traveled is reported annually on these charts. And I think that
I could chime in here. So the vehicle miles traveled are based on the number of vehicles on the road. So that's going to be updated. So once we update that is when it'll be reflective of what the new added capacity is on the facilities. And that'll help, you know, update the formula. Yes, sir.
By registered?
Right, yes, sir.
And
Correct.
gallons of fuel, right?
Right, yes.
Both.
Yes,
As
in
the,
gallons.
yeah, as the
Consumed.
calculation that she was showing a little while ago on the previous slide, yes. So those statistics will be updated.
You also have an increase of electric cars, right? So
No, that's not
That's
separate, no, that's not taken into account here. That's a
Are
good
they-
point, though.
are they removed
But-
from the vehicles miles travel?
That's a good question. We would have to look into that to see if they're actually not being included in that number. So that's something definitely to look into, yeah, in the vehicle miles traveled.
I would imagine you have some sort of tracking mechanism that
Right.
can be
Yeah, there should
tapped
be,
into for data.
yeah, that's a
When
good point, though.
charging stations,
Right.
you know, number of vehicles, households,
yeah.
electric meters where they charge, because they have to charge to recharge
Yeah.
their vehicles.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
the number of registered vehicles that are electric possibly maybe is what's taken into account there on the vehicle miles.
So my next question is, why would we want to waste our time on this if there's no penalty and the state's going to do something for us?
Right, yeah, that's, I guess in conjunction with the rest of the performance measures that we do have in effect. So this is another one that's being added on. So with every performance measure or any, you know, that's being presented to us eventually becomes something that's gonna be implemented into our planning process.
Don't worry, they'll figure out a way to
So it's
penalize
gonna
you.
affect,
That in effect, sir, they're providing federal funds, but the containment zones require us to dig deeper in our ENV and our environmental justices. So we are still paying for it.
Yes, so to go back to the questions, so with more vehicle miles added, but no CO2 tailpipe emissions added, that does increase our percentage. So it makes our proportions look better because we're having more miles traveled with less CO2 emitted. And then the only reason why we're focusing on this is because it's in the federal code that says we have to report this.
As far as that is concerned, I know there's been recent discussions about the containment zones, and I know it seems like just yesterday, but 20 years ago, we weren't worried about it. Now we're very occupied about it. What is the status of our region as far as designations and containment, as far as, I know the levels and
Right.
impacting
that's
our funding?
Definitely. No, that's something that's being monitored really closely, but we're still, in attainment. So, we're hopeful that it doesn't go into non-attainment. We could actually put together a report, to present that for TAC. It's a good item that we'll bring back. So that way, everyone's aware of where we're at and, and where we have been in comparison in the past. So it's a good item to share here. So thank you.
Yeah, we're below the levels, and I remember seeing recently the EPA passed that, I think it was Dallas and Houston, went from moderate to severe level. So their non-attainment got a little bit more worsened, but we're still below. So attainment.
Any other questions? No action is needed?
No, sir.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and move on to item B, presentation and discussion regarding the Congestion Management Process Subcommittee. Ms. Caladiso?
All right, this is also an informational item, inviting stakeholders to join a subcommittee to participate in the drafting of the Congestion Management Process Report, referred to as a CMP. So the production of the CMP is also federally mandated for MPOs with populations larger than 200,000 due to the complex challenges that arise with the transportation of people and goods at that scale. So in short, the purpose of the CMP is to identify, analyze, and monitor traffic congestion in urban areas to provide data-driven implementation strategies that are to be evaluated for effectiveness over time. FHWA has extensive resources on their site that aid in crafting the ideal CMP, and all guidebooks and examples point to collaboration between stakeholders, such as the policy board, TxDOT, and transit providers, often by use of a designated subcommittee or working group. The timeline to have the CMP complete is by August of this year to align with when we will be undergoing certification as an MPO. Currently, our plan is to convene virtually once a month in March, April, and May with 5 to 10 stakeholders with the flexibility to adjust the upper limit of participants should there be an increased demand. Areas of focus for this meeting will be to establish regional goals, objectives, and principles that alleviate traffic congestion and assess traffic congestion challenges, and to also pinpoint strategies that we to implement, and then we're also going to develop methods to monitor the effectiveness. To participate, you can let me know now or provide your contact information in response to my email requesting subcommittee members following shortly after this meeting. And lastly, I wanted to add that if anyone feels that they're unable to join but would still like to collaborate via email, Teams, or a phone call, that I'm available to listen to input or to process any relevant data.
Does it have to be somebody on this board?
It doesn't have to be.
So if there are any nominations or somebody that wants to volunteer, we encourage you to use either that email or get in touch with Clarissa or Luis. And I guess just notify us once you've reached, your goal
Okay.
as far as your participants. And if not, then reach out to all of us again and just ask for more nominations until you reach that goal of the number of participants that you need.
Okay. Right now I have 3 one is from the TxDOT traffic division, and then another one is from Metro McAllen, and another from Edinburgh. So I'm hoping to get somebody from Cameron County and maybe even San Benito, Harlingen.
Okay. Okay,
Thanks.
anything else? Any further questions? Okay, thank you, Clarissa. Item C, RGVMPO Executive Director's Report and Update.
Yes, okay, I'll run through this pretty quickly. The budget, we're well within budget. We have spent is 456,968, where we should have been spending 531,130, so we're well within. I also wanted to mention that the MPO is gonna start expanding the invitation for any meeting requests from policy board members. If there's anything that would like to be discussed, we'll come to you. We'll take the, staff members that are needed in order to accommodate and any questions, federal functional classification, funding, anything. We'll go over to you. We'll set up, we'll send a couple of dates. We'll coordinate. And we're gonna be, I guess, roadshow, out to visit y'all and, make sure that we're, meeting the needs of what everybody needs. So we're gonna make ourselves available to you. So if there's any, any requests for these meetings, shoot me over an email and we'll go ahead and, accommodate you and we'll, plan what works for both of our schedules. Wanted to put that out there. Okay, the Project Readiness Subcommittee, as Eva mentioned, also is coming up. So March 14th, and that's the same date as our Technical Advisory Committee meeting. The committee selected to have that meeting in person. So we're gonna go ahead and follow through after that meeting. We're gonna go ahead and provide lunch and we'll have the Project Readiness Subcommittee after that. And we'll have a report to bring back to the policy board on the findings out of that committee meeting. And also, I wanted to mention that we're gonna be looking to actually have another round of our MPO 101. We did have one last year. It was a little bit rushed, I feel. We did like 3 hours, I believe. So we're gonna try to do a full day this time. So we would have, start in the morning, once the location's identified, and then have lunch and, finish off the day and hopefully cover as much as possible. We'll be sending out a survey in the near future, of topics that are of interest that we may need even more focus on. And these individual meetings that I did offer as well will give us some feedback as to what we may need to cover as part of the MPO 101 and put more emphasis on. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions for Luis? I appreciate you reaching out or at least offering yourself to individual meetings. A lot of times, maybe we don't understand something that happened in this meeting or
Yes.
Something came up and we have some questions. It's
Definitely.
a better forum
Yes,
to
sir.
ask those things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item D, Tech Project Status Report. Turn on the microphone.
The picture of the little person.
There you go.
So I'm Freddie Briceño out of the Fire Area Office. I'm going to be going over some active construction projects in Hidalgo County. First up is FM 1015 on the south side. This project is located just south of the expressway all the way to 2.5 miles south of the expressway. The contractor on this project is Texas Cordia. This project is 2.68% completed, and it's expected to be completed in August of 2025. The current construction that's going on, in this picture, they're working on compacting the subgrade. This one here, they have lime to treat the subgrade. Next up is 1015, just north of the expressway. Contractor on this one is Ream Construction. This one is 0.5% complete, and it's expected to be completed in April 2025. This one is located just north of the expressway up to mile 9. Construction on this one is they're doing milling, and then this picture is just showing the traffic control facing south. Next up is FM 1425 in Mercedes. This one is located between Business 83 all the way to State Highway 107. The contractor on this one is Asago Construction. This one is about 20.2% complete, and it's expected to be completed in February of 2026. Here we have the paving of the operation, and then this next picture is the pavement being completed. And that's it for the Hidalgo construction projects.
Good afternoon. My name is Rene Davila, project engineer at TechStat. So I'll be presenting project update for Cameron County project I-69 ramp reversal located in Harlingen, Texas. The limits of the project are from Industrial Boulevard to Loop 499. The scope of this work is to basically reverse the existing ramps going southbound and northbound. The contractor is Foremost Paving. We are currently at 38% complete, and we're looking to completion December 2024. This is the going northbound area. Contractor has completed the proposed on-ramp and half of the frontage road. As we speak, this area is now open to traffic, and contractor is now working on the northbound right-hand side of the frontage road and the proposed exit ramp. Now, this is going southbound. The contractor has completed the proposed exit ramp going southbound. And as we speak, this is now also open, and contractor is currently working on the proposed on-ramp going southbound. Thank you. That was it for Cameron County.
Update on the expressway?
Sure. Real quick update on the interchange project, I-2, I-69C. Obviously, we are working on the westbound main lanes. Many of you that passed through the area have seen the contractor excavating a lot of dirt. Everything's out. We had obviously a very wet winter. We have had a very wet winter, and that caused some delays on the overall construction. At the last update, I think I had mentioned we're looking forward to March having a substantial completion. That has shifted. Now it'll probably be May of this year, substantial completion.
Any questions? You good with that far? Thank you. Item E, Cameron County Army.
Actually, we had real quick updates on design projects.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joel Garcia. I'm Central Design District. I want to provide a couple of updates on several projects that are going to be letting in this fiscal year. The first project is going to be located in Bronzeville. Also is the SH4, well known as Boca Chica. So this project is going to be led in this fiscal year, May 22. So as you can see, the environment is clear, right away is not required, utility is clear, PSNE is in the process to be sent to division for letting purpose. So there is no major changes on this project. The next project is FM 494 Cherry Road, located in North McAllen, here in Hidalgo County. So this project is south of SH 107, all the way to Mile 5. So this project also, the schematic is complete, environment is complete, water way is complete, utilities in progress, and then it's planning to be accomplished by the August this fiscal year, and there's no major issues to let this project.
Is that $126 million worth?
That was about 25 minutes.
Okay, you got some work to do.
Alrighty. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ezequiel Gonzalez. I'm a project manager out of Central Design FAR District. This is just an update to the US 83 STAR project that we're scheduled to let this June 2024. We're on track. Schematic, right-of-way, and PSNE is all 100%. Right-of-way, environmental, we're currently in the process of reval, which is scheduled to be done this March. And utilities, we're currently in progress with coordination on that project. And everything's on schedule to be done prior, and we have a CMP in plan for the utilities that are still pending. So project's on track.
Just got a text with the update of how much we rolled over for FY24. That was $48 million that we rolled over. 122 Cat 7, 48 million of Cat 2.
Okay. Is that it for TechStat reports? All right, item E, Cameron County Army. Mr. Davila, is that correct?
Good afternoon.
First project up, we have the Veterans POV expansion. This project, I'll skip right to the update. We've got an adjusted contract amount about $7.2 million, $17.2 million. Contract time 436 days. We are approximately like 82% of time and of budget already invoiced. A lot of stuff is on the ground. We're hitting substantial completion milestone here pretty soon. In fact, on April 3rd, we do have what we have right now is a tentative visit from Senator Cornyn to do a ribbon cutting April 3rd. So once we confirm that, we'll definitely reach out to stakeholders and update everybody. Gap 2 project is pretty much shovel ready. It's existing right away, although we're going through a reeval right now. We've already submitted our biological evaluation and wetland report, so we're just working through final comments. We also have recent approval of the railroad exhibit, so we're moving on into the right-of-way agreement with the railroad and moving into a 95% submission, which is an effective 100% set of plans for this project. So we're pulling that together right now and sending that out in about a week and a half. East Loop, appreciate the action here today for the FC, very much appreciated. We just did get preliminary approval from CBP for the wall design that they're about to embark on. We basically had to pre-design it for them. They're just gonna basically fill it in. They're gonna do all the legwork on it. We just got that approved. We continue to work with USIBWC to move a portion of the levee that's critical to the construction of the project. We're at a 90% plan level completion. We're gonna move into 95% here in about, once we receive comments, we're gonna turn that around really quick and get this to 100% as soon as possible. Again, this project is also undergoing environmental review. The process that is probably the most critical right now is a land swap. And we've actually got engaged with the appraiser from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and they're currently selecting from a basket of options that we've presented them. So this is progressing. Flor de Mayo Bridge, we hope to have a little more news on that here soon, but the presidential permit has been submitted for this project, and it's with the Department of State. The rules that were rewritten in December of last year allow for processing from the White House to issue the presidential permit ahead of NEPA. So in the past, you had to do NEPA, run the risk of that, and then get the permit. They've actually reversed that now, so we're taking advantage of that process. So we should have more news on that soon. Free Trade Bridge, we have a small export lot that we're about to expand. So we're actually just about to let this project, so it'll be in construction in about another 45 days. Old Dallas, existing right-of-way. This one is also finalizing environmental at the moment. We've already conducted our public meeting. We do have a funding gap that we need to work through, but the county has asked us to accelerate this project, so we will. So you'll be hearing a little more about this project here soon, but by and large, everything's firing on all cylinders for this project. Dana Avenue, we just had a public involvement process that wrapped up in the beginning of February, so the public comment period already wrapped up, so we're having our public meeting summary report about to be summarized and continuing on into the archaeological portion of our environmental. A lot of the documents, schematic, everything's complete. We actually also submitted for our request for TPMP traffic, so we can get the option B, which is the projections provided by the local government, to be approved by TPMP. FM 509, we had our kickoff in December. We're working toward trying to get to a public meeting sometime in the middle of this year. So we have submittals for this already underway. Williams Road, we're also already requested our kickoff meeting. That's already in the TxDOT system, so we're gonna be pushing on that project. You'll be hearing more about that soon. Second Causeway, as y'all have heard, the on-system designation happened last year. We're working with TxDOT to scope through the schematic support that we're about to provide them for the environmental clearance. I'll skip a few of these projects. Harlingen Rail, we just met with UP. We're about to meet with UP in March. We got released by FRA to do our phase 1 work. So we'll have more news on that here probably by summer. SPC phase 3 is all it needs is PSNE and a revisit of the re-eval for the EA that we have on this project. So there'll be more news on that, but we are currently scoping with the consultant. So we'll be going into design here very shortly, and hopefully construction in very short order as well. US 281, we have a consultant already selected, and so we're going through the negotiations for that. West Boulevard, Again, that's a project that's already got right away. We got the design pretty much done, and so we're gonna start to work through official submittals with TxDOT on this project shortly. All the other projects are in the packet. I'd be happy to answer any specific questions if anybody has one at this time. All right, thank you all for your time.
Other stuff, thank you, Eric.
Mhm.
Item F, Hidalgo County RMA. Mr. Raymond Navarro.
Good afternoon. Ramon Navarro, Hidalgo County Regional Mobility Authority. I'm the Chief Construction Engineer, and I'm here to give you a brief update on the 365 Tollway project. As you all know, this project was let in March of 2022, March 17th of 2022, and we've been diligently working on this. It was initially let with 1,264 calendar days. I'm going to skip over all of these details. We are currently still deliberating on change order 6, which we plan on having a meeting mid-month of this month. Now that time is on the downside, we are at approximately 56% complete of time and at about 42% on production. It has become a concern to the leadership, so we are having a meeting to see how we can make this a leaner project and push the contractor to incentivize them and get them to eliminate that delta on the time and the production. As mentioned, we have had a wet winter, and that's been impactive on some of the production. This is just photos of the work in the levee. We are relocating the levee and behind Ware Road in the flood area, in the floodway there. We've got the floodway bridge going up. We've got beams, delivery on that. That's about a 3/4 of a mile bridge structure. We should commence pouring slab and superstructure next week. As far as the toll collection system, the infrastructure is being put in the ground. This is just a photo to give everybody some idea of what's actually pushing all of the communications. It's all fiber and conduit and goes from box to box. And it's the reality of the thing. Instead of just passing under it and you see, oh, it picked up my tag. Well, there's a mechanism of doing that, and it's a whole underground network that does that and feeds it back to the back office. Toll technologies is amazing. We continue working on retaining walls in a majority of the intersections. We do still have ETT as the electric transmission line. We sealed the deal with them last night. We mediated from a year to about 4 to 8 months, which is another reason why we need to meet with our contractor to see how we can accommodate the schedule and work accordingly. But we've got a willing contractor and a willing owner, so we'll sure those are going to go great. Those negotiations will be real great. They'll be real cheap. Efficient. Here's just a photo of some of the paving that we have ready to go. We should start paving also next month on this as they're designing or setting up and establishing protocols with all of the various designs on the concrete and rebar, cement, and submittals, etc. We continue to negotiate and collaborate with our partnering agencies. The Irrigation District Number 2, everyone that has to come across Irrigation Number 2 knows how diligent they are in working and inspecting. We're working that out, and hopefully we can be released on more of the work. We've got about approximately $80 million of work being held back for underground structure, so that's also in negotiations and being collaborated. That summarizes the project. I'm happy to entertain questions or concerns after the meeting if anybody wants individual insight on any of the project. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Ramon. Item G, transit report. Mr. Bocanegra.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Bocanegra. Best for last, right? Transit, hooray! So this will be our quarterly report. First one will be B Metro, if you want to go ahead and, or I guess the totals here, right? We had 932,000 up to the start of the fiscal year in October to December. with Valley Metro having a little under 400, Metro McAllen having a little under 200, Island almost 100K, and B Metro at 283. Next slide. So some of the project updates: 9 drivers have completed the CDL Academy with TSTC, and they started the regular service hours in January 30th of last year. 30 bus shelters will go out to contract due to the contractor not being able to obtain required documents. Their biggest one, I think, is very impressive, is they have filled all driver full-time positions. If you know just how difficult that is in our industry, I think that that is excellent. They have 2 new paratransit vans already in service as of January, and mobile ticketing pilot will go soon. That's as of February 1st. You can go to the next one. Island Metro, 100% done with their new bus shelter project, and they're all open to the public, and their multimodal facility received its LEED certification plaque. Next one is us. Our North Transfer Station is estimated to have a grand opening early, and actually we do. Metro McAllen is proud to announce the grand opening of the North Transfer Hub and Maintenance facility. The ribbon cutting will be taking place very soon on Tuesday, March 5th at 10 a.m., the corner of Trophy and 23rd Street. The facility will host a park and ride with 95 spaces and a better connections to our routes in the growing areas at the north end of our city. $7.8 million were allocated for this through the transit tip here at the RGVMPO, so thank you for that. And the project was awarded transportation development credits through TechStot. So I want to ensure our invitations are sent out to all members here on the policy board and committees so that everyone's informed and knows. So I think it's a very successful project. I'm really excited for it.
What time is that?
I'm sorry?
What time is the event at?
That will be at 10 a.m.
Thank you.
At Trophy and 23rd, and we're going to go ahead and I think we're going to have breakfast provided and things like that, and that'll be on Tuesday. So that is going to be in conjunction with our route expansion, which will be launching shortly after. We are finalizing some of those routes. We also currently working with GoPass to launch our mobile ticketing, which we are thinking will go live the week of the 18th. A lot of projects pushed into 2024, and they're all back to back to back to back. You can go to the next slide. The bus shelter project here for, this is Valley Metro. I'm sorry, I don't know, you can take over if you want. Oh, are you sure? Okay. City of Elsa is finalizing locations for their bus shelters. City of Ad Couch will be adding 2. And the assessment continues with the San Benito and Harlingen. Their CDL Academy is ongoing, and they have partnered with TechStot, UTRGV, STC, TSTC, and the Workforce Commission to get those people in that program. RTAP, they received a grant for the continuation of the Regional Public Transportation Coordination Plan, which we were required to do. And, of course, application for hardware and software has just been awarded through the 5310 call for projects, as have 2 projects for City of McAllen. So, and I think that should cover all of our updates. No
Any
questions?
questions?
Thank you.
If not, thank you guys very much for, I believe, a very informative, successful meeting. Item 6, other business, old and new. The next RGVMPO Policy Board meeting is scheduled for 1:30 p.m. on March 27th, 2024. Is there any other business to consider? Go ahead, Manny.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Just wanted to advise the RGVMPO that this afternoon our LRGVC Board of Directors approved the creation of a regional mobility advisory committee. That committee will be leading the charge to try to explore, research the regional transit authority for the region. Currently, there is a bill, as you all might know, HB 71, that if implemented, we can move forward with it, but it doesn't provide enough funding for that to take place. And so, moving forward, I know it'll probably be a monumental effort, but either way, we're starting the process. And so if you receive an email or invitation, we prefer elected officials, because when we presented last month the bill, they were not aware of it. And so elected officials, city managers, elected officials would be the ones to attend. And so highly encourage and invite you to be part of that committee.
Thank you very much, Manny. Any other announcements? Okay, if not, then it is now 2:47, and we will adjourn this meeting. And good luck tomorrow